Hold on a second. That does not sound like the theme song to the Electric Scooter Podcast. Well, that's because yesterday we were in old Mexico. Less than 2 hours after our takeoff from the airport in Mexico City, returning to Las Vegas, a massive earthquake struck the Mexican state of Michoacan, which is, to be fair, a good distance from Mexico City, but it affected Mexico City. Just unbelievable. When I watched the news on this, they showed the airport where I had been sitting, and signs were just swinging back and forth. What's even more incredible is that on this same day, September 19th of 1985, that was when they had the massive, massive earthquake. Then again, unbelievably, in 2017, they had another one. So it was such a coincidence that people thought, let's just make this our National Earthquake Preparedness Day. So they were going about doing drills in the various condos and homes where people live. And it happened again. That's right, 3 times in a row. On the same day of September 19th. It's just incredible. What a massive coincidence. Anyway, in this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about Mexico, my experiences there, and we'll have some scooter news from another part of the globe. So let's get this show rolling. I have since safely returned to Las Vegas, and I am in the Scooter Dome at this moment in the recording studios of the Electric Scooter Podcast. But let's give a listen to what I recorded a couple days while I was still in the beautiful city CDMX, Ciudad De Mexico. At this time, I am in the beautiful Mexico City, and I'd like to say a couple things about my experiences here, of course, specifically dealing with scooters. I did find a couple places that have scooters, but mainly they are for sale. I'm sure there probably are rental scooters here, but I haven't seen any on the streets. The scooters that I did see were, for the most part, Segway 9-Bot Max. When I casually saw somebody cruising by and I'd check out their scooter, 9 times out of 10, it was a Segway 9-Bot Max. Of course, I pursued interviews. The first place was called City Fly, and I spoke to the manager there who spoke good English, but he wanted to speak to the owner first, and the owner never contacted me. I left my information, and I guess he didn't want to do an interview or he was busy. But I gotta say, it did cross my mind that since he speaks fluent English, maybe there's a little embarrassment at the name that he selected for his scooter company. Kind of like, remember back in the 70s or 60s, Chevrolet had a car called the Nova, which in Spanish, I mean, how's it going to sell in Mexico or any Spanish-speaking country when it's called Nova? Va in Spanish, form of the verb ir, to go, means just that, to go. So Nova means doesn't run, doesn't go. Who is going to buy a car that's called Doesn't Run? Well, City Fly makes me think of like maybe a cartoon or something, as opposed to Country Fly. You got your Country Fly, you got your Horse Fly, you got your Shoe Fly, you got your City Fly. And that part of town has a lot of dogs, and I did step in something moments prior to walking over to the store City Fly. I'm not trying to make fun of this guy or anything, I'm just musing, okay? He didn't get back to me, and that's totally cool. I'm okay with that, but there were other extenuating circumstances. There was a huge holiday going on at the time. Could have been any number of reasons. For one thing, the time that I was here was a 4-day holiday weekend for Mexican independence. A couple other things they had going on at once. A lot of the streets were blocked off. It didn't affect me too badly. It kind of ruined my plans maybe for one day because all the streets were blocked when I was planning on visiting a different part of the city. But I do recommend to folks, if you want to come down here, go ahead and do it. I know most people are not like me. Most people don't go to a foreign city specifically to ride a scooter. You're going for other reasons. And I go for other reasons as well. It's just that scooting is a part of the formula as to where I'm going, what I'm going to do. The streets here do have bike lanes, and they are not just painted. They have heavy concrete blocks, not the kind like you see in other countries across the world that would come up to your knees. They're maybe 12 inches high and maybe 3 feet long, and they're painted yellow. And you get more than just a small lane to scoot or ride your bicycle in. It's, I would say, 3/4 the size of a car lane. There are some cobblestone streets here. It's not as much as you would see in Europe or other places that I've been. So I would say overall, if I were to rank Mexico City as a scooting city, I would give it about a 7 out of 10. You don't see a lot of scooters, but you do see some every once in a while. And most of those folks that are riding by in scooters do not wear a helmet. I was able to get an interview with Z, as in Z, some countries say Z e-scooters. They are co-located with a motorcycle company that sells mainly CF Moto, but they also had Ducati and a couple other brands. But what was cool about this place is because they're a motorcycle shop and they have skilled repairmen there, they were doing all kinds of neat modifications and any kind of repair really they can do. They had VSET 10 just torn apart. They had an M360 made by Xiaomi, and they were putting interesting tires on it. They looked to me to be about 10-inch tires that were kind of thin, and also disc brakes. I did take pictures of everything. I took videos of everything. At some point, they will be on the Dagwood Streets YouTube channel. Type in Dagwood Streets, and I'll come up. Also, if you ever want to contact me, DAGWOODSTREETS, Dagwood Streets at gmail.com. ESP is here for you, so drop an email to our crew. We might not know what to do, but Dagwood's here for you. That's Dagwoodstreets at gmail.com. If you don't know what to do, Dagwood's here for you. Dagwood's here for you. Dagwood's here for you, scooter heads. Let me say a couple more things about Mexico City just in general. I read a couple things about safety. I know that's one of the concerns people have. Some people also have misconceptions about the weather. If you are in central Mexico, like Querétaro, Mexico City, Puebla, the weather is beautiful. Mexico City itself is something around 7,000 feet. So it's nice and cool year round. While I was here, it was between 65 and 72 degrees, and it rained maybe once a day around 5 o'clock. It rained enough to make you not want to go outside, but it didn't rain for long. And as far as safety, this area is safe. I don't know about the police. I would generally try to avoid the police if I came down here because you hear things, but I don't know enough about it to really comment. But I will say, as far as the people, super friendly. We walked around, we being my wife and I, late at night. Most of the areas are well lit, tons of cafes, and we didn't feel any safety concerns whatsoever. If you're hesitating making a trip to Mexico City, whether it's to scoot or just to eat or to beat the heat, don't be concerned. It's really super easy. The taxi drivers were great. I remember the Simpsons did an issue on taxi drivers in Brazil, and that got everybody in a huff. And I think it really misrepresented all of Latin America. Kind of, even me in my mind. The things that I've heard about Brazil left something in my mind that kind of shaded all of Latin America. But here in Mexico City, there is Uber. There's something called Didi. There's a couple other services. Uber Eats functions here really well, and a lot of people use it. The food is amazing. You probably already knew that. It's not expensive. The areas that we were in include Roma Norte, Roma Sur, Chapultepec, Park, La Condesa, or simply Condesa, Del Valle. All those areas, I can tell you. I know San Rafael, we didn't get to visit there, but that's a really nice area. They're all really safe. Safer than where I live in Las Vegas. Every morning I listen to the news in Las Vegas, and there are always murders. I mean, always. Las Vegas is a big city. It's not like Los Angeles, Chicago, New York. It just seems to me we shouldn't have that many murders. Not just murders, but really crazy stuff happening all the time. People running red lights and hitting people. And every day it's kind of a one-upsmanship. I think, wow, that was really crazy. Now the next day something crazier happens. I do not feel super safe in Las Vegas. I'll tell you that. I will say I do feel safer in Mexico City than I do in many cities in the United States. And here's what I read. I read that although Mexico has much worse crime statistics than the United States, not for Americans. If you look for Americans in Mexico, crimes against them, compared to Americans in the United States, crimes against them, you're actually safer as an American in Mexico overall. There are a lot of murders and disappearances and all those kind of things, but they're really not in the areas Americans tend to go, and Americans do not tend to be targets. We felt safe here in Mexico City. Now, the place where I conducted the interview, called Z, simply the letter Z, the letter Z, does sell scooters. And I did conduct an interview, but it was completely in Spanish. How am I going to deal with that? I haven't really decided yet. I spoke with the owner, Esteban Juarez, and he preferred to conduct the interview 100% in Spanish. My Spanish is not that good, but I had Google Translate on my phone, and I do speak some Spanish. I did study for 2 weeks in Ecuador And I do pay attention to what's going on around me, and I have some apps on my phone and that kind of thing. So I can speak a little bit of Spanish. And we were able to conduct the interview 100% in Spanish. What am I going to do? Am I going to release an episode 100% in Spanish? And the 8 people that listen to the Electric Scooter podcast who happen to coincidentally speak Spanish are going to be entertained? I don't think that's a good way to go. So I'm either going to translate it myself the best I can or get a buddy to help me, or maybe I'll do both, where you hear his voice in the background with a volume turned down a little bit, and then you hear the words in English a little louder. I'm not really sure. I know it's going to take some time and diligence to get it correct so that it's a good experience for the listener. Or maybe I'll just translate what he had to say and read the finer points of it myself. I haven't decided, but look forward to that in an upcoming episode. I think that about rounds it out for what I have to say about Mexico City as far as scooters go. Again, I did not see a whole lot of rental scooters. In fact, I don't think I saw any. I have heard that they're out here somewhere, but I didn't see any. Nowhere are there scooters laying around or at certain areas to where you put in your credit card and drive off. They may be in certain parts of the city. This is the second largest city in all of the Americas. It's larger than New York City. So there may be pockets of areas where they have rental scooters, or some people call shared scooters. I don't really care. I don't like those anyway. But if you go to Z Scooters in Mexico City, it's located near the Condesa area. It was walking distance for me, about 15 minutes. You can rent by the week, you can rent by the month, you can rent by the hour. If I had it to do again, and I will, next time I'm going to probably bring my own helmet and rent for the entire time I'm down here. Maybe I'll come down for 2 weeks. And I'm sure the cost will be reasonable. And he has a decent selection. I would probably rent a V-Set just to check it out, or maybe one of the custom scooters. He has Namis, but I think Nami might be a little too big for what I want to do. I think something with a 10-inch tire would probably be appropriate around these streets. That's about it. That's all I can think of that pertains to scooters here in Ciudad De MeXico, CDMX. There are beautiful walking trails. There are a lot of dogs on these trails. Have you found this to be true, that dogs seem to react to the electric motors on scooters? Whenever I get around dogs, they kind of go nuts. Is it just me, or do dogs have a hypersensitivity to electric scooter motors? I just noticed that when I go by dogs, they go nuts. And I don't think it is the fact of a human figure on wheels going at a certain speed, because my neighbors have dogs. And when I silently to my ears, cruise by the high brick wall, they start going nuts. They don't go nuts when I walk by. So I'm thinking it might be the motor. And let me tell you, this part of Mexico City, Condesa, is the most dog-friendly city probably on planet Earth. If you don't like dogs, don't stay in Condesa. Stay in, I don't know, Coyoacán, one of the other areas of Mexico City. Roma Norte still has a lot of dogs too, so maybe not even there. There are dogs everywhere. Not only do people bring their dogs into restaurants, but a lot of cases the restaurant owners have dogs there anyway. Now, in general, they're pretty mellow dogs. They don't mess with anybody or start barking at people or anything, because there's so many people and they're just so used to it. You walk down the street and dogs are cruising by. So you want to be careful. Sometimes where you walk, I think they actually do a good job of picking up after them. But on a scooter, you want to be careful and you want to watch the speeds you're going and stuff. Dogs are on leashes. You don't want to get in between a dog and the owner, and then the leash knocks you down, because the dog sprinted to one side quickly or whatever, you're going to have to be careful. Keep your speeds low when cruising through Mexico City, and you'll be fine. What would I do if I had an electric scooter in Mexico City? I would go to a little path called Amsterdam. It circles the Roma Norte and Condesa area. It has trees over it. And I would probably do it at an hour when people are not walking their dogs. I would also just explore the little neighborhoods, stop, get something to eat, definitely keep a little backpack, wear a hat on my head and maybe long sleeves, because up here you can get sunburn. Even though the skies are often gray and the weather's nice and cool, it can be deceiving. Muchísimas gracias. Well, scooter heads, before I go, I just want to give a quick shout out to Dane and Dylan, who I met in Mexico City. They're from San Francisco, and they were telling me about this crazy new law San Francisco is pushing that involves geofencing to keep scooters off the sidewalk. What the H? I got to delve into that a little deeply, do a little research, and we'll talk about it. I had another news item also that I was going to go into this episode, but hey, my fun meter has pegged. So until next time, scooter heads, keep your helmet on, wear your safety gear, keep the shiny side up and the dirty side down. Aloha! ¿Cómo se llama ese tipo de guitarra?
Esa es una jarana huasteca.
Jarana huasteca. Jarana es EADG o cómo es el tono?
Sol, re, mi, la, do.
Okay.
Sí, suena la jaranita huasteca.
A mí me gusta mucho porque es como un ukulele.
Sí, parecido.
Sí,
parecido,
pero
okay.
ese es más
más ancho.
Más ancho.
Sí, el ukulele está un poco cortito así, ¿no?
Sí, entonces el sonido es
el sonido,
más
ándale, más fuerte.
Más fuerte.
Ándale,
Gracias. Sí. Ok, tengan buenas noches.
Buenas tardes.
Gracias.